Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's professional development session on regular substantive instructor-initiated interaction. So what is RSI? Why do you care? Well, we've given I think I've given a pretty good introduction to that. It is an accreditation requirement. There's just no wiggle room there. If if a visiting accreditation team comes in and happens to pull your course and they find no evidence of RSI, there's going to be trouble. Trouble for you, trouble for the institution. There will be lots of unpleasant stuff rolling downhill, and none of us will escape it. It is the essential element of humanizing your online course, of making your online course more personal, of eliminating that feeling of psychological isolation that so many online students, particularly new ones, feel when they're in Canvas and they're working on their material. If they don't feel your presence in there, if they don't feel you as a human being in there, they're much less likely to be successful. All kinds of studies have demonstrated that. They're much more likely to just give up or wander off or perform poorly. The primary reason why to this day, asynchronous online courses, courses primarily offered through Canvas, are not quite as successful in terms of the student success as face-to-face courses, though the differential between face-to-face and online courses in that regard has narrowed greatly over the years due to a lot of concepts like RSI here and a lot of work to ensure that the online course is much more welcoming and is much more psychologically satisfying for our online students. And it all comes down to the three most important things in an online course, and there they are. You've heard the old realtor thing: location, location, location. Well, in online education, it's communication, communication, communication. So most of what we're going to be talking about today is how to communicate with your students, both synchronously and asynchronously, that is in real time and on their own time, and ensuring that that they have the benefit of your knowledge, your experience in teaching. Most of the people I see here are real experienced, just like me. I've been at it for a while. And, that can get lost in an online course if you don't put a real effort into things like regular substantive interaction. So what does regular mean? Well, it means often. Maybe checking in once a week's probably not going to cut it. Or communicating with your students once a week is probably not going to cut it. Several times a week. That doesn't mean you have to contact each individual student several times a week. That's absurd. But you need to be doing this all the time. And it needs to be predictable enough that the students will be looking for it and expecting it and won't miss it because they didn't log in that day or whatever. Or they won't get it in a timely fashion. Substantive means more than just, hi there, how are you? So that's important too. Students want to know that you care and that you know that they're there and that you know that they're a human being too. So that's not unimportant, but that doesn't count toward RSI in the view of an accreditor. It means substantial value to the communication, academic value, instructional value, something essential to their learning. So the bar is a little higher here for RSI than it is for just, an informal, almost social-like contact. It needs to be academic. It needs to be substantive in order for this bar to be reached. and it needs to be instructor initiated. That's not to say that, replying to a student's question or a concern is not important. It certainly is a vital part of an online course, but it's not RSI. It's not regular substantive instructor initiated contact. This needs to come from you as the instructor with some frequency, and it needs to be something that the students really need. And you need to be able to prove that you've done it. And the best, easiest, surest way to make sure that there's a record of your regular substantive interactions is to do them in Canvas. That's not to say you only use tools that you find in Canvas and things like that, but you want to make sure that there's evidence in your Canvas shell that you've done this after the semester is over, or while it's in progress and the visiting team comes in and pulls your course at random out of the stack and decides to evaluate it. They need to be able to go in and quickly find in your Canvas course that you have been practicing regular substantive interaction with your students. It can be very difficult to establish that otherwise. Like an email exchange with a student, where you email a student from your district account or a personal account and have an interaction back and forth with the student over something. That's certainly regular substantive interaction if you sent the first message. And it has to do with the student's academic progress in the course. But those interactions are going to be lost in your email account among all the spam and so on that you've received from various sources, including me, and things like that. And the creditors the accrediting team has an incredible, if you've never been on a visiting team, it's an incredible grind for the people who come in a week, have to evaluate your accreditation report and check out things that you say you're doing and things like that. It's a massive task. They don't have time to go asking, well, can you give us something else? Or they're just gonna write a recommendation, and nobody benefits from that. So we're going to see that Canvas, Canvas gives you lots of opportunities, not only to initiate contact with students, but also to keep a record of it in Canvas so that an accreditor can find it very easily.